The Muslim conquest of Tiruchirapalli in 1736 and Karaikal in 1739 in South India by Chanda Sahib, a powerful potentate under Dost Ali, the Nawab of Carnatic, alarmed other Hindu rulers. Sensing the threat, the Nayak dynasty of Madurai, along with the major Hindu kingdoms of South India, Ramanad, Sivaganga, and Pudukkottai, and the kingdom of Mysore, called on Chhatrapati Sahu, the most powerful Hindu Maratha ruler in India, for help to overthrow Dost Ali, the Nawab of Arcot. Accordingly, an army of 50,000 soldiers under the command of Raghuji Bhosle of Nagpur, one of the prominent leaders of Maratha, moved to south to extract revenge on the wrongdoers and attack the long untouched Carnatic to collect tribute and chaut. Raghuji moved south into the Arcot Suba after defeating Kadapa and collecting tribute from Kurnool. 30 miles north of Ambur, near the Damalchari Pass, Marathas arrived at the location where Dost Ali had taken up defensive position at the end of 1739, asking his son Safdar Ali and his son-in-law Chanda Sahib to join him in defending their territory. They answered the summons, but they moved slowly, especially Chanda Sahib. Further, Dost Ali had also left a Hindu commander in charge of a vital gorge to the south behind him. On the night of May 19, the Hindu commander was duped into letting the Maratha forces march over the gorge, pounding Dost Ali's position from behind before daylight. When Nawab spotted cavalry, he thought his son Safdar Ali was coming to help him, but he met hostility. The battle was hard despite the disadvantages, and it ended only with the deaths of Dost Ali and his second son Hassan Ali and the imprisonment of First Minister Mir Asad. Carnatic shook at the loss. Upon hearing the news of the defeat on the way at Arcot, Safdar Ali promptly relocated to the strongly fortified areas of Vellore. The reluctant Chanda Sahib stayed in his satrapy to protect its capital, and he returned to Tiruchirapalli. The brothers-in-law agreed on one important issue. They used Pondicherry's defences as a protection since the Marathas' victory was still unclear. They gave Dumas control of his father's family and his own, along with all that they could carry. 5 days after the battle on May 25, a sizable cavalry comprising the widow of Dost Ali Khan, her children, her dependent, her jewellery, and the belongings approached the Pondicherry gate to request entry. Dumas knew that this would attract the Marathas. He had no reasons to behave emotionally, but he thought it was more pragmatic to risk bringing the Marathas to Pondicherry than to disgrace the French all across India. Further, Safdar Ali was still unsubdued, and refusing to accept his mother would make him an enemy. Dumas called a council and told the members about honor, gratitude, humanity, and policy, listing the hazards. The council accepted his reasoning and immediately admitted the cavalcade with great state and ceremony. A similar hospitable reception was accorded a few days later to the wife and son of Chanda Sahib. After their victory, the Maratha marched to Arcot without resistance, and their detachment started pillaging the countryside. Despite their destructive devastation, their receipt fell short of their expectation as, following the war rumors, Carnatic residents moved their valuable to fortified areas in Madras, Vellore, and Pondicherry. Despite gathering every blade of grass, the Maratha had started to feel that the campaign had failed from a Marwadar's perspective. They freed Mir Asad, Dost Ali's first minister, and sent him to Vellore to persuade his new master to make peace offers to the invader. Mir Asad, a bitter enemy of Chanda Sahib, aroused Safdar Ali's suspicion about his brother-in-law's intentions and easily convinced him that the Chanda Sahib's sacrifice would ease his conditions. The negotiations were opened, and a treaty was signed in August 1740 by which Safdar Ali was recognized the Nawab of Carnatic in place of his father, who agreed to pay 10 million rupees to the Marathas in installments and join his troop to drive Chanda Sahib from Tiruchirapalli. And all the Hindu princes on the Coromandel coast were exempted. The two last articles, however, were kept secret, and it would be better to prevent their existence from being suspected, and the Maratha retired from the Carnatic. Information regarding the secret clause of this treaty reached Dumas, and he did not fail to take advantage of it. Raghuji Bhosle had already threatened him, and the two of them had since exchanged correspondences that did not help ease the situation. Maratha asked the French to pay tribute, which he refused. He also refused to hand over the wife and son of Chanda Sahib and their treasures. Pondicherry was even threatened to suffer the same fate as Basin, which the Marathas had brutally taken from the Portuguese. But Dumas responded with defiance and continued with the same order the repair of the fortification and the erection of new defences. He formed a body of 1200 European infantry and supplemented them with 4 or 5,000 of Muslims who he armed and drilled in European fashion as the Sipahi army. Meanwhile, Safdar Ali, the new Nawab, visited Pondicherry thanking Duma, but he knew how galling it was for the Marathas to know that his father's and Chanda Sahib's families and valuables were safe in Pondicherry. He was well aware of the Raghuji Bhosle intention to punish the French for their audacity. Safdar Ali also declared that henceforth the French should be as much the master of the Carnatic as he was. Further, he delivered to the French governor a parchment conferring upon him his personal lands bordering on the southern territory of Pondicherry, bringing in a yearly revenue of 10,000 rupees. A firman from the court of Delhi soon after confirmed the succession, and after a stay of several days in Pondicherry, Safdar Ali and his father's family proceeded to Arcot. Duma had a strong idea that all danger from the Maratha had not passed away, and even after their departure, he continued the fortification and stored supplies. He communicated this suspicion to Chanda Sahib and induced him on their strength to leave his family and valuables at Pondicherry. However, Chanda Sahib left, leaving his wife and family with their jewels in Pondicherry, and began acting in a way that contradicted his fear of a second Maratha inroad. During the first invasion, he stored Tiruchirapalli with grains, believing that an ample supply with the walls would keep the Marathas out indefinitely. But after returning from Pondicherry, he sold the grain as he was confident of the future, and he was considering adding to his territories. He sent his brother Bada Sahib to Madura for an attack. This was late November. Raghuji, who led his Marathas to Sivaganga, 80 miles south of the capital, was quickly informed of Bada Sahib's movement and Tiruchirapalli predicament. This was the news for which Raghuji had been waiting. He quickly gathered his forces, marched to Tiruchirapalli and sat down there before Chanda Sahib could do anything to replenish his stores. Despite being surprised, Chanda Sahib defended himself and asked his brother Bada Sahib for his rescue, who immediately led 3,000 horses and 7,000 men to Tiruchirapalli with supplies. However, the Marathas knew all his movements and sent a superior force of 20,000 men to intercept him when he was within 15 miles of the city. In a desperate battle, Bada Sahib was shot and fell from his elephant, and his followers, missing his inspiration, left. The body of Bada Sahib was brought to the camp before Tiruchirapalli and sent to Chanda Sahib. Chanda Sahib remained steadfast and courageous for some time, but having exhausted all his money, stores, and ammunition and lost some of his best troops, he had no choice but to surrender after 3 months of fighting with hard terms, only securing his life. He was at once sent off under a strong guard to Satara. While engaged in the siege of Tiruchirapalli, Raghuji Bhosle had not ceased to threaten Dumas, asking for the immediate payment of 6 million rupees with a regular annual tribute and the delivery to him of the wife and son of Chanda Sahib with their possession. Dumas continued to oppose. The Maratha, however, was been on intimidating, and while still himself before Tiruchirapalli, he dispatched a force of 16,000 to beat up the coast and plundered Porto Novo, a town about 30 miles south of Pondicherry, having the depots of Dutch, French and English, and further moving and pillaging Kadlur, an English settlement 12 miles from Pondicherry. Marching then to within 5 miles of Pondicherry and halting there, they sent threatening letters to Dumas, while ravaging the country and collecting plunder. These threatening acts and even the visit of one of the top Maratha officers who came to inform Dumas that Pondicherry would be responsible for Tiruchirapalli fate did not outrage him. On the contrary, he received this officer with the utmost politeness and showed him the supplies he had stored up, the guns bristling on the ramparts, the drilled European, the armed Sipahis. He hid in fact, nothing from him. He then calmly informed him that so long as one Frenchman remained alive, Pondicherry would not be evacuated. This envoy left immensely impressed with the power and resources of the French settlement and with the resolute bearing of its governor. Furthermore, taking his leave, the Maratha envoys received from Dumas under the name of cordials a present of 10 bottles of liquors. Some of these he made over to his general Raghuji Bhosle, and he, in his turn, gave them to his wife, who found them so much to her liking that she insisted upon others being procured, whatever the cost. The influence of woman is powerful. Raghuji was most unwilling, after all his threat, to abate one iota of his demands against Pondicherry. Yet the French cordials had given them an ally. Any means necessary were to obtain these cordials, and it appeared that the only way to do so was through cordial communication with Dumas. Timely gift of 30 bottles of these cordials charmed Raghuji so much that he quickly lost all his previous resentment towards the French. He prohibited any pillaging in the neighborhood of Pondicherry, and he began to listen without anger to the reports that were made to him. In attacking Pondicherry, he had everything to lose and nothing to gain. He accordingly withdrew his demands for the tribute payment and the surrender of the family of Chanda Sahib and retired without any further demonstration, fortified by cordial, to the western coast. Dumas' brave act and firm refusal to give up his guest, and the way he refused the conqueror of Tiruchirapalli with coolness, earned him the heroic reputation in the southern Indian polities. He got lots of praise and thanks from everyone. Nizamul Mulk, the Subedar of Deccan, sent him a thanking letter written in the highest word of respects and an honor of dress for him. As a sign of respect, Safdar Ali sent him his father ornate armor, along with 3 elephants, several horses, and many swords and weapons covered in jewels. When the Emperor of Delhi, Muhammad Shah, heard that the Maratha army had been repulsed, he gave Dumas the rank of Nawab and the title of Mansabdar for 4,500 horses. Dumas asked for the title and the command to be made transferable to his successor, which was also accepted. Not long before he received these honors, Dumas told his directors in Paris that he wanted to go back to France. His resignation was accepted, and Joseph Francis Dupleix, who had been the intendant of Chandranagar before, was chosen to take over with him a new course of French-English conflict for the mastery of India.